Whenever I hear folks question how to make sense of a complex situation, to learn a complex subject, to solve a complex problem, there's one phrase that always comes to mind. And that phrase is, sketch it out. That's my favorite piece of advice. This is my favorite way to summarize what visual thinking is all about. And to support folks in their effort to sketch it out, I have developed the Sketch It Out framework. And that is what I'm going to share in this video. Using this Venn diagram as a supportive model here. It starts with defining your purpose. Then we move on to collecting the pieces. And we'll finish things off by solving the puzzle. Let's break down what each of these mean. At the start of the process, when you are defining your purpose, there are 3 questions that I encourage you to consider. 3 things that if you nail correctly, you'll hit a bullseye. Those 3 things are identifying your audience. As you're learning something new or solving a complex problem or sharing a set of ideas with someone else, whatever you're sketching out, it's worth identifying who it is that you're making that thing for, whether it's just for yourself or a specific group of people. Because when you know who it's for, it's easier to make the little decisions along the way that result in some visual artifact representing that set of ideas. In addition to your audience, you need to set a particular intention. What role do you want your sketch to play? What will determine whether or not it's successful? And then finally, it's worth identifying scope. Scope is about what you will and won't include in your sketch. It's about saying this sketch will include this, this, and this, but not this, this, or this. We'll save those other things for later. Sometimes we try to include too much of a given topic in one single sketch. By identifying scope, you get to decide what you will exclude. I've got to give a shout out to Abby Covert in her book, Stuck, Diagrams Help, for bringing in this concept of scope, because prior to her work, I'd only kind of identified audience and intention, but scope is a powerful thing to address up front because it puts some bounds on the rest of the experience. Next, we move to collecting the pieces. And this could be as simple as jotting down a bullet point list of the who and the what. What are the individual ideas that you're working with? What are the details? This is where you kind of just jot everything down so that you can see everything you're working with. If you've got more modular materials like sticky notes available, you might use those instead for this process because that will allow you to kind of move around any individual idea or little sketch if you want. You can do some sketching out in this phase as well, but don't get too caught up in any individual drawing in this stage of the process because here you just want to get all of the individual ideas down because it will be in the solve the puzzle stage of the process where you actually bring those ideas together. And here my encouragement is for you to make a model. Bring all of these ideas together into something that falls somewhere on the spectrum from diagram to drawing. A diagram could be something like a Venn diagram, or a flow chart, or a mind map, anything that involves simple shapes and lines. A drawing is something more representative, maybe a visual metaphor like a target, or an iceberg, or a mountain, or a staircase, or even something more representative like a sketched scene, a person or a group of people in a certain situation. Diagrams tend to light up the logical networks of your brain. Drawings tend to hit a little bit more the emotional side. Both can be effective as individual models that can serve as a container for these ideas that you want to bring together. And I really do encourage you to try to find a single overarching diagram or drawing that can be the centerpiece for that set of ideas that works well for the audience you're trying to reach, fulfills the intention, and stays within the scope. So in this case, the model for the Sketch It Out framework is this Venn diagram. Because even though there is this general flow from define your purpose to collect the pieces to solving the puzzle, there's still a decent amount of kind of bouncing between these. As you're solving the puzzle, something about the diagram or the drawing might inspire some additional pieces that you hadn't originally considered that you need to add into the mix. Or maybe you realize your scope is a little bit off, or that there's a slight tweak to the intention based on the insights that come just from exploring these questions. So allow yourself, as needed, to kind of bounce between these three stages, but generally moving in this direction. And I think it's worth pointing out what lives at each of these three intersections as well. As you move from purpose to pieces, you're going through a process of inquiry. It's more of an open exploration of the individual ideas that relate to the topic you're exploring. When you move from collecting the pieces to solving the puzzle, this is a process of integration. It's less about expanding the number of ideas you're working with and more about bringing them together in this process of synthesis to identify what might be a helpful diagram or drawing that represents how those pieces are connected to each other and ultimately helps you do something with those ideas. Because in this intersection, from solving the puzzle to defining your purpose, this is where you consider the impact. The impact of the sketch you created, the model that you made. Does it actually help you think through the problem that you're trying to solve? Or understand the topic that you're learning about? Or effectively share an idea that's really important that you want the audience in front of you to understand? And if it doesn't achieve that intended impact, that's when you might revisit these two stages here and try reworking the puzzle. Test out a different model. Add or remove some pieces and see if that results in an impact that's more aligned with your intention. So the next time you're working with a complex set of ideas, try following this process. Start by defining your purpose, identifying the audience, intention, and scope behind the work you're about to engage in. Then collect the pieces quickly, expansively. Don't get stuck in any individual drawing, just get all the ideas down, and then solve the puzzle. Make a model that brings together these pieces into a diagram or a drawing, and then put that model to use to see if it achieves the intended impact. This Sketch It Out framework is the core model within a new book that I'm working on that is called Sketch It Out. If you would like to follow along with the book writing and book sketching process, be sure to subscribe here, and if you're interested, sign up to the Verbal to Visual newsletter at verbaltovisual.com, because when you do that, I will actually send you a preview of my first book. This is the Verbal to Visual Notebook, a set of activities to build your visual note-taking skills. This is very much a try this book. It's a set of activities for you to get comfortable making marks that aren't just letters. And where this is a try this book, Sketch It Out is going to be a how-to book. I'm going to dive deeper into this model here and share a bunch of other ideas that I hope will help you to incorporate this way of working, this way of thinking, into both your personal and professional life. So stick around for more. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.